Hello, welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. It is always an honor to welcome you here. Thank you to everyone for joining me as we learn about Black history from the other side, the royal side. I'm Lady Trinette Wilson, and I'm wearing pink today for a reason. Today's podcast is so interesting because it's inspirational and heartbreaking at the same time. It also gives us a glimpse into another royal life of a princess of African descent, right in the middle of the royal court. Her name is Maharani Bamba, Lady Duleep Singh. She was the wife of the last ruler of the Sikh Empire. Now, before we get into her very fascinating story, I want to say thank you for everyone who has stopped by, who have liked, who have shared, who have subscribed. We're on our way to 200 subscriptions, which I never even thought I would reach. Simply, I'm a nerd. I love this information. I love Black history. And I'm so glad I found my tribe of people who love the same information that I love and who want to learn more about the royal Black and elite side of African American history and Black history. So thank you to everyone. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call the lady of our subject today, Lady Bamba. That way, we don't have to say her whole entire name. And y'all don't get me down there in the comments for my sometimes Texas pronunciations of them. So let's jump right in because I think you'll find this one so interesting. Born Bamba Muller on July 6, 1848 in Cairo. Her name means pink, thus the pink jacket today. Her father, whose name was Ludwig Muller, worked for a German firm of merchant bankers, and he was well respected. He was a partner, and he was a wealthy man. Her mother, well, she was an Abyssinian slave woman. An Abyssinian also means an Ethiopian woman, and her name was Sophia. Now, Ludwig was a married man. And so having a baby out of wedlock with an Ethiopian woman wasn't a good look for him during the time. So he actually sent his daughter away along with her mother. And his daughter attended the American Presbyterian School in Cairo. And he also got Sophia a job there also so she could be with her daughter. Now, at a young age, Bamba really grew a very special relationship in her walk with God. And so she was a very pious young lady. She was also described as very elegant and effortlessly graceful. So she was a beautiful young woman. And while she was at that school, is when the man she would later marry, Prince Duleep Singh, leader of the Sikh Empire, it originated in the Indian subcontinent. And these include the countries of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Now, his father, the Maharaji Ranjit Singh, he established his base in Punjab. The empire lasted from 1799 till 1849 when the Sikh Empire was conquered in the Second Anglo-Sikh War. I'm sure all the hard work he did, he would have never believed that the British were colonizing and they attacked their country in order to colonize there in that region. And the Sikh Empire was the last major region of the Indian subcontinent to be conquered by the British. It had an estimated 3.5 million people. And after colonization, they were all under British rule. Now, Prince Duleep, he had to do some things in order for the British to totally not annihilate India. And so some things he did was he claimed he was a Christian. But the thing that he did that was most controversial was that he agreed in a treaty to give India's most prized possession, the Koh-i-Noor diamond, which was a 105.6 carat diamond, to the Britons. In return, they set it in the crown jewel. So whenever you see this crown, remember that it is a part of the Koh-i-Noor diamond and was given to them by treaty by Prince Duleep Singh. So now Duleep is an exiled royal. He was financially taken care of by the East India Company, but it came with one very major caveat. But I should say the East India Company was really a British company, and he had to do everything the British government told him, and he was under close surveillance. He couldn't do anything without them knowing about it. So if he was angry about getting overthrown and colonized by Britain, he better not say anything about it because he had to keep eating. And they even gave him a house, actually a state. It was called Elvenden Hall, and it was in Suffolk, England. Since being exiled, the prince had not returned home to see his mother. She had to stay. She wasn't able to come when he was exiled. So the queen, Victoria, finally let him go and retrieve his mother. She moved to England with him, and that was the first time that he had been back to India. He returned to India a second time to bury his mother. And on his way home, back to England, he stopped in Cairo. And there is where he met the future princess and his future wife. He visited her school a few times and made some donations when he finally got to the crux of what he really wanted, which was a wife. And he asked in a letter the supervisor of the school who did they think would be a good match for him. And they immediately thought of Bamba. Now, Bamba had to pray about it because they weren't just going to make her marry him. So she had to pray about it. And after several days of prayer, she accepted his proposal and they were married on June the 7th, 1864, in the British consulate in Alexandria, Egypt. And her life, it changed immediately. Now, one thing she had to learn is how to be royal because she had never experienced that. But the contemporaries of her time and in letters, they described Bamba as very elegant and very ready to walk into the royal lifestyle. And so she did a really great job. And she was very well respected within the court. And she joined her husband and really dived into being a princess. Now, the prince and princess, they had many children. They had six of them, three boys and three girls. Now, one of them died at age 13, Albert Edward, but the other two boys were Victor Albert and Frederick Victor. And then the three girls were Bamba Sophia, Catherine, and Sophia Alexandra. And actually, Sophia Alexandra went on to become a very famous suffragette in the country. Now, by 1886, the prince had gone through some major changes. As you can see here, he had stopped dressing like a prince, and he did not any longer want to be in Britain. He wanted to go back to India. But of course, Britain would not let him. Most of all, he started cheating on his wife. He squandered away their wealth, and he was fathering other children outside of their marriage. It was completely uncalled for and embarrassed Bamba to no end. In particular, when he was caught trying to escape back to India, he was with a woman named Ada Witherill. And that was in 1886. By 1889, he had married this woman and they had children together. He left Bamba homeless and penniless. And if it was not for Queen Victoria, she and her children would have had no place to go. She let them move back into the hall, Elvenden Hall, but rumor has it, or history has it, that they didn't have any furniture. All they had was a bed. So she was really broke. And she was an alcoholic by then, drinking day and night, not leaving her room. In fact, one of the things that the queen did to step in was to remove the kids and send them to school so that they would be okay. Now, in September of 1887, Sophia was diagnosed, the baby was diagnosed with typhoid fever. So Bamba stayed up with her and tried to nurse her back to health. But in the morning, the fever had broken, but Bamba had fallen into a coma. She was pronounced dead at only 39 years old. And later, it was diagnosed she died from an acute case of diabetes and comprehensive renal failure. In short, she drank herself to death. The prince died not long after. He died in 1893 of a stroke, and he was only 55 years old. It's really sad they both died before they saw their children grow up and become the fabulous and wonderful people that they did become. From joining the British Navy to being a suffragette, their children were very powerful people in Britain. Bamba was buried in England, and also her son, Albert Edward, is also buried in her same location, as well as the British also buried the prince next to them as well. I wonder if she over there kicking him in her death. He was something else, and this story was something else. I can't thank you enough for joining me. I hope that you loved it. I hope that you learned something new about another wonderful royal who was of African descent. I've been your host, and I thank you for joining me. And as always, please press like, share, and subscribe. We can't make this happen without you. Now, if you have some stories you'd like me to talk about, definitely let me know, and I'll try my best to get to it. Again, thank you, and I'll see you on another great episode of Royal, Black, and Elite.